The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's May 4th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. All right, Matt Shodell, I'm picking this thing up where I left off yesterday, very unsuccessfully, and I asked you a simple question at the start of yesterday's show, and I'm going to get right back to it because I don't want to annoy people and make them think we're arguing and stuff. It's really insane, some of the comments that we get on YouTube. But anyway, like, simple question, okay? With all these transfer pickups, and I can go back through them again if necessary, but I'll let you elaborate a little bit. Has the Miami defense made itself better? And is the Miami defense good enough for this team to make some noise in the 2022 season?
Okay, so yeah, I didn't answer your question yesterday.
No, and I'm not letting you get off point today.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. So yeah, the Miami defense is going to be terrible. That's what a person who's negative would say. But I'm a positive person. This defense is going to be much better. And there's a few reasons for it. You know, because you asked yesterday when I wasn't prepared, I spent all day yesterday talking to people and running numbers, because you know how much I love numbers. I'm a math whiz, Gary. You know I'm a math whiz. So do you want me to go like defensive line, linebacker, DB, and then you could weigh in with your thoughts also, or how do you want to do this?
You do whatever you want. You take the floor.
All right, well, I'll share my thoughts first.
By the way, I was drinking from a water bottle yesterday, and I just didn't like the way it looked on the show. So look what I went out and got. Wait, I got to get it in the screen. This is my new glass. How about that? Huh?
They took a photo of you and just put it onto a glass. That looks
actually, yeah, that works. That's
amazing.
We can make that happen.
That's basically what that looks like. It looks like a spitting image of you.
I like it.
All right, so let's start up front, and you could weigh in whenever you want to weigh in. Just go ahead and interrupt me. I don't really care.
I'm not going to interrupt you.
Unlike you, I don't like getting interrupted. You just interrupted me. I don't care. Interrupt
me as much as you want. Sounding better. Those steroids are working. So
they are working, actually. Yeah, they're really great. Okay, so let's start with defensive line. Defensive line last year, the four starting defensive linemen, the four main starting defensive linemen, I guess you call them, DeAndre Johnson, Zach McLeod on the inside. The main starters, you have to say, was Nesta Silvera and John Ford. John Ford, the NFL superstar who got drafted.
By the way, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Did you see that Zach McLeod got $250,000 guaranteed when he signed his free agent contract?
No, I didn't know he got that amount. That's why he signed. I didn't know he got that amount.
$250,000 guarantee. Somebody liked him.
After taxes and paying his agent, he gets what? $5? I mean, he's gonna have to make it in the NFL. That's how you make your money. Anyway, so those four guys were the primary guys. Look, other guys did play a bit, but those, you could argue, those were the four main guys. And they combined, all four of them, for 10 sacks in 12 games. The pass pressure, everything starts up front, just like in offense. You need a dominant defensive line if you're going to be really good. And the secondary wasn't bad last year. It was actually decent, but they ranked, I want to say, 102nd in pass defense, in part because the defensive line wasn't getting after the quarterback. The quarterback goes all day to throw. They're going to be able to find people, whether they're checking down or finding an open guy downfield, whatever. I put a lot of the blame for the secondary's issues last year on the defensive front. So now let's move to this year, since that was your question. Will this year be better? Yes, this year will be a lot better. And I ran some of the numbers, and so it's funny, you try to project the starting four, and I can't do it, okay? Which is a good thing, because I right now have 7 guys across the front four that I think are going to be heavily in the rotation, and I guess there'll be an 8th at some point that does something, whether it's a Cyrus Moss as a pass rusher, or Thomas Davis, whatever. I'm not including them. So you got Akeem Messidor at defensive end / defensive tackle. I think he wants to be an end. He's a rush end. That's what he wants to be. I think they're going to try to move him inside on third down and passing situations. I think he's going to be fine with that, because he can get sacks very easily from the interior as a faster guy when he knows they're in passing situations. I think that'll be fine. Then you got on the other side, I think Mitchell Agood will be the other starter. Both those guys played 500 plus reps last year, super experienced. They both graded out right at about 70 per Pro Football Focus. And Akeem had a 75.6 pass rush grade last year, which is outstanding. Okay. And Mitchell had a 75.2 pass rush grade, which is outstanding, which tells you when they're in pass rush situations, these guys are elite. Those are elite numbers pretty much. 70 is considered very good. Anything above 70 is really, really good. Mitchell had 2 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 6.5 tackles for loss. And Akeem had 8 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks, playing tackle, mind you, for the most part. I don't want to get too long-winded on the numbers, but I project.
You're doing fine. You're giving.
All right, I project Leonard Taylor and Jared Harrison Hunt as the starting tackles. I know some people think Darrell Jackson is going to come in right away and be the starter. Darrell Jackson, for those of you that just sort of think because they took him and he's this physical marvel, is going to be amazing from day one. Like, just so you know, these are just the numbers. He only played 225 reps last year, which is not a lot. Okay, by comparison, Jared Harrison Hunt, who didn't even play a full season, was 403, and Leonard Taylor, who was a backup, played 200. So Darrell was at about Leonard Taylor's number of reps last year as a backup. But Darrell, obviously started some games. But Darrell's overall grade wasn't real good, 57. It wasn't real good in any particular aspect. 58 rush defense grade, 59 tackling grade, and 54 pass rush grade. So he's going to need to make a jump up, and that was at Maryland.
I got to go try to find some film of him.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland's not playing like the most amazing competition either. So he's got all the tools, but like I said, he's raw. He only played a couple years of high school ball. He needs to get in the Miami coaching this summer and fall. It's not going to be instantaneous. It's going to be a process for him, but he's going to be amazing. Just maybe not in year one, where he'll start in year one. That's why I'm projecting LT and Jared as the starters. Now, LT, in his limited amount, he had a 71.7 overall grade. And guess what? Jared had the exact same overall grade. These guys were really good last year in their opportunities as backups for the most part. And LT, 74.5 rush defense grade, 60.4 pass rush grade. And for Jared, it was a 71.2 rush defense grade. And his tackling was awful, 29 and 67 pass rush. So,
how about Lickenstein? What were his grades like?
Who?
Jake Lickenstein.
Okay, so Jake Lickenstein, he played 556 reps, 65 overall grade, 60 rush defense, 72 tackling, 66 pass rush. So very solid player. He's not a guy who jumps off the charts like numbers-wise, like Mitchell and Akeem did, but he's a guy who, playing end and tackle, he's a really, really good backup, like really good. Like, he'd start for most teams, but I think he's going to be a backup at both spots and play a lot of reps. These guys don't play every rep, okay? He'll play a lot of reps. And then you got Jafari Harvey, who had a 65.2 pass rush grade last year in 425 reps. He's a really good, that's not elite, but he's going to be better. He's gotten bigger, and he still had that explosiveness that we saw in the spring for the parts that we did see him. So I think that they, across the board on the defensive line, have a bunch of really good guys. Now, do they have one guy who's a Gregory Rousseau or a Jalen Phillips? No, I don't think so. But I don't think they need to. And compared to last year, when they really had nothing, in my opinion, that was great. I think these guys, at every level, at every position across end and tackle, I think they're improved from last year. I would argue inside, LT and Jared are going to do better than John Ford and Nesta. And I would argue at end that Akeem and the combination of, and Mitchell moving inside and outside, and Jafari, and with Jacob moving both spots, and you got Darrell for depth. And I didn't even mention Antonio Moultrie, who obviously at UAB didn't play much competition, and he had a 66.5 overall grade. I think
did not participate in the spring, but he could be a factor in the fall.
Could be. I think, I hate to say this about anybody, I think if Antonio Moultrie was in the portal now and they hadn't already taken him, I'm not sure they would still take him. I'm not sure they knew what they were really going to get after him. Remember, they took him super early.
I don't know if I agree. I think they like him.
And I know they like him, but remember, this is a guy who played.
He's going to be close to 300 pounds by the season, and I think he'll help them.
I understand, but remember, this is a guy who played at UAB, and he played linebacker last year. So, there's some question marks there. We'll see. But yeah, so that's the defensive front. Do you have anything to add on that before I move to linebacker? Because I think
I can't believe I agree with you.
I think they're improved at every position on the defensive line.
But here's what I'll say: I'm not as bullish on Leonard Taylor and Harrison Hunt as you are.
I don't know why. You've always
because I think they got to pick up their game big time, or these other guys are going to stomp all over them. That's what
I think it's great they have competition, because last year they were both still super young. They, Jared was still like in and out from injury. LT didn't understand the defense. I really think once LT understands what he's doing, and he did not in the spring. That's why he was second team a lot in the spring. And he's got plenty of time now to.
I think he's got to amp up the energy.
Leonard Taylor is the best physical defensive tackle they have, including Darryl Jackson. I mean, he is so quick with his first step and so good with everything he does. Once he understands where he's supposed to go and what he's supposed to do, I mean, he's going to be dominant in my opinion. I think he's the most upside of any defensive lineman.
Intense. Got to get that eye of the tiger working.
We talked to him. He's like soft spoken. He's like the nicest guy off the field. You're right. He's got to get a little angrier.
Got to get a little angrier, a little meaner, and maybe Coach Joe can get it out of him. We'll see. I didn't see it in the spring, Matt. I did.
No, I agree. He was lost in the spring. It was like the beginning of last year. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He literally told us at the beginning of last season, like he would look at the other players to see what he was supposed to do. He didn't even know. He'd ask other players, like, "Hey, what am I doing this play?" Like he had no clue.
Yeah, I don't know if it was not knowing what to do or what, but I did not see a forward move by Leonard Taylor in the spring. I did not see. I agree,
but it was a new defense.
I didn't see a starting defensive tackle on a ACC contending title team,
and with that said, I don't disagree. But with that said, the defensive lineman, and I did like what I saw from Thomas Davis and Cyrus Moss. With the interior guys, it's a little harder to tell sometimes because you can watch them inside run, but again, there's no tackling allowed, so they're just sort of tagging guys. 99% of what we watched, the only thing we could really watch was the spring game in terms of actual taking to the ground. So for the interior guys, it's a little harder because they're not really the pass rushers. You could see Thomas Davis and Cyrus Moss beating their guys and getting to the quarterback.
But if you're not watching them against Zion Nelson, it's irrelevant.
Right. Well, I agree with that too. Yeah. But the interior guys' job's a little different. They hold the point of attack. They're not really every responsibility is getting after the quarterback. So when we're watching them and they're not tackling, like you don't really understand, did they do their gap assignment correctly or not? Like it can look different when you don't understand what they're supposed to do. So I have no issues with what I saw, other than the fact that I do agree they need to probably up their level of play in the fall, but I think they will. And Jared was out right for most of the spring, so if not all of it, if I remember. So really, LT was the one who was getting the work there. But anyway, I like both those guys. So should we move on to linebacker now?
No, because I just want to say one more thing. To me, the defensive line position, the key is going to be the ability to roll guys in and out. I mean, you're going to have a lot of bodies up there. You're going to always be able to make sure you have fresh guys in the game, and that's going to make a big difference. Especially
that's where you and I disagree always about this stuff. If you got a guy if I agree with you, if there's no separation, if there's no separation between the first and second team guy, okay, keep them both fresh since neither is great.
You're not going to have separation. There's not an elite.
How can you say that now? What are you talking about?
Because
the two starting ends might be the best players in the ACC. Jermaine Johnson at FSU, maybe they'll strike lightning in the bottle with both these guys. You don't want them off the field. They play 80% of the snaps or more if they're that guy.
They could, but I'm not going to anoint that before.
No, but you got to wait and see.
Neither one's even practiced 1 second on green.
Yeah, you got to wait and see, though. You can't just say, we'll just roll guys in and out 50-50. That's ridiculous.
I'm projecting realistically that there's not going to be a separated elite guy, but that there are going to be 8 or 9 very good guys. This is the way I see it right now, just looking at the whole picture. And I think that's okay. Like, I think that in itself is going to make this team much better in the fall because they're always going to have fresh bodies on the field. And up front, that's a big deal.
My only problem with that is that's what Manny Diaz did the last 2 years, and it made me crazy. I agree. If there's nobody stepping up, okay.
Not doing it with guys at this level.
But I think they made a big mistake last year not playing Leonard Taylor more reps. They felt he didn't know what he was doing. I get it. But, like, he was your best defensive tackle last year athletically and physically. So, I had an issue with that. But anyway, let's move to linebacker. We could talk about that forever.
To tell us your thoughts on linebacker.
Yeah, so linebacker is my concern area on defense. We knew last year it was a major concern area, and we turned out to be right. I'll give you an example of some of the problems last year at linebacker.
Oh, you really did do your research for today's show.
I told you I did my research. So listen to this, okay? These are some of the tackling grades from last year, all right? And we'll go from some of the better ones to the worst ones. And listen, 60 is like...
Do I need to put my pink flamingo glasses on before you start talking about this?
No, because this is the opposite. So this is last year.
This is going to be pretty ugly, right?
Yes, this is last year. This is, guys... So listen, 70, like I told you, 70 grade per Pro Football Focus, again, is 70's very good. 60's, like, not real good. Anything below 60, you're like, man, this guy needs to step up. So with that said, okay, Chase Smith in 98 reps, which isn't a lot, but these are guys who just did very poorly in tackling. These are tackling grades only, okay? Tackling grades from last year. Chase Smith, 49.9 was his grade. Gil Fryerson in 410 reps, 49.7. Wayman Steed, 445 reps, 36.1.
Ooh.
Keontre Smith, 332 reps, 27.8. Avery Huff, barely, he didn't play a lot, 37 reps, but I mean, he couldn't tackle anybody, 26.5. So that was last year. And we knew last year linebacker was going to be an issue, and it was. And the tackling grades bear that out. That was really where your main tackling problems were. Defensive line had some problems too, but I mean, linebacker was just awful with angles and tackling, etc.
These pink flamingos don't even do that justice. That is horrendous.
Right. So now here's the issue, right? So the guys we just mentioned, I personally think Chase Smith, Keontre Smith, and Gil Fryerson, those are three of the guys who were below 50 for grades for tackling. I think those three guys, probably two of those three, if not all three, are going to still have major roles on the defense. Wayman Steed, he was with the first team in the spring. I hope someone will be better than him. But I mean, he's had every chance in the world to do it. He was a 36.1 grade last year tackling. Like, I don't know that he has much more that he's going to be like, that he quote unquote gets it. Like, he is what he is at this point, Keontre Smith, to me, looked much better in the spring. He bulked up. He looked much more explosive. I think he can really be a lot better. Chase Smith was out in the spring. It's hard to tell, what he might do. He could be a huge surprise. We don't know. He just hasn't had a chance to do much. And then Gil Fryerson, again, Gil is probably a little bit of, he is what he is at this point, right? He's played for several seasons, and he's good enough, but he does make some mistakes, and his tackling grade was bad. So anyway, so now the only upside to this is they're all a year older. They're all been here and they've done it. They have a new defensive scheme, which maybe will help them. They have new techniques being taught to them, which again, maybe can help them. Kevin Steele has a history of having good tackling defenses. You have to think something will be different. And the only addition at linebacker, unlike defensive line where you get a whole two deep that came in with 5 new transfers, they got Caleb Johnson. And the funny thing is, not funny, but like the best tackling linebacker last year was Corey Flagg at 70, I think it was 70.4 tackling grade, which is really good. And Caleb Johnson is going to supplant Corey Flagg, and he should. Corey Flagg's a small guy.
What were his stats like? What were his numbers? Did you look up Caleb's numbers on Pro Football Focus?
Yeah. So okay. So Caleb Johnson, let's see. Last year he graded out 65.3 overall, and his tackling looked amazing compared to the Miami guys, but it wasn't good. 52.5. The difference with Caleb Johnson is he's a big physical middle linebacker, whereas Corey Flagg was a small, a little more agile, squarish but small middle linebacker, not physical. So Caleb's very physical. They obviously they bought him in to start. I mean, the guy's a middle linebacker. They bought him in to start, not sit on the bench. He had 45 tackles last year. In the short in the season the year before, he had 44 tackles with 5.5 sacks, by the way, in 7 games. So like he's got the upside to do it at a very high level, and we just got to see him and see what he can bring to the table. But let's say he pans out really well. So now you're looking at the star position, which is a hybrid, basically outside linebacker outside linebacker nickel guy. And I think that Chase Smith potentially could do that, but probably Keontre Smith is best suited for that. They also line up at safety sometimes, depending on the situation. It's possible James Williams could be in the box a lot, which would help. But then you're looking at just a bunch of guys. Like I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Gil Fryerson's going to be amazing all of a sudden, or oh, Wayman Steed's going to be amazing all of a sudden. I'm not even sure Keontre Smith will be. So linebacker concerns me. I do like they added the UCLA guy. I don't think Corey Flagg can play outside linebacker. I don't think he's fast enough. Or long enough for that matter. So, like, there are some issues there. And with Wesley Bissainth sort of questionable now, and look, he's a true freshman anyway. You don't want to rely on him necessarily anyway, but he needed to bulk up big time. So I don't know how much that foot injury sets him back in terms of getting bigger, stronger, and faster, right?
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help anything. So we'll lay eyes on him.
Do upper body work.
But you can't say right now that he's going to be able to necessarily help you right away because he really needs it every single day of this offseason to work out and do everything. You won't be able to. So that's an issue. So linebacker to me is the weak point on defense. Will it be better than last year? My answer is it can't be worse because it was the 3rd worst tackling defense in the country last year, in large part because of linebackers. Can't be worse. To me, even if it's a wash, the worst case scenario to me, it's a wash, same as last year. That's the worst case scenario. I personally think it'll be a better group. Will it be even in the top half of the ACC when we say linebacker units in general? Maybe 50-50 on that one. That's that's how I look at it, just honestly.
I'm not sure we're seeing it in its final form yet. I think that they will still be looking for linebackers in the portal. I think
with good reason, because of what we just talked about.
Yeah, it's obvious this position is not good enough as it exists right now. And I think there will be some graduates that'll go in the portal and things like that that might be better than what Miami's going with right now. So I think any evaluation of the linebacker position should have an asterisk next to it, to be continued later this summer and into August, because I think it could look a little bit different. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out.
Listen, they needed and still need a linebacker. I know they want a receiver real bad, but I think they need a linebacker just as badly, honestly. If not,
they can walk and chew gum.
Oh yeah, your favorite saying. I will never ever walk and chew gum again with you.
Getting a wide receiver doesn't keep them from getting a linebacker. I mean,
I only sit down and chew gum now because of your saying constantly walk and chew gum. I refuse to walk and chew gum now because of you. You've ruined my chew gumming and walking.
They don't have to be mutually exclusive of each other.
Yeah, I know you love to say that.
Well, it's true.
I like to sit and chew gum now, okay? So it's much more relaxing. You walk and chew gum, you could swallow the gum. There's a lot that can go wrong if you walk and chew gum. Sit and chew gum. That should be the expression. Much safer.
All right. I want to talk to you about the linebacker position, because that was an area that I thought did get better in spring drills. But first, let's hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
My name is Max Romero Jr., and I am Life Wallet.
I want to hear you say, my name is Matt Shodell, and I am Life Wallet.
My name is Matt Shodell, and I'm selling wife wallets. I got plenty of them. Come and get them.
No. Let's pretend I'm John Ruiz. This is how he coaches the kids.
Yeah, I know.
It's great. So I want to hear you say, my name is, I want to hear you use your voice. My name is Matt Shodell, and I am Life Wallet.
Oh, did I hit mute by accident? Oh, damn, I hit mute. Oh, well. All right, let's move on to the secondary. You ready?
All right, cornerbacks.
All right, so the secondary compared to last year. So like I talked about, last year was a major issue in the secondary, but I think a lot of it, they led 250 passing yards per game, which was number 102 in the country. They were number 60 in pass efficiency defense, and opposing quarterbacks playing Miami in the 12 games threw 21 touchdown passes with 8 interceptions, okay? It was not a good year for the secondary, which is a little surprising because Tyreek Stevenson played well. James Williams and Cam Kinchins played well. Bubba Bolden did okay until he got hurt. So they had, and on top of that, surprisingly, Marcus Clark, who really struggled this spring, he actually had it graded out really well. I think it was over 70. So he stepped up also. And so it's not, and they have DJ Ivy, obviously, who's a veteran, but he's had some problems. So it was a good secondary, but they didn't perform. I think the defensive front, like we just talked about, how that being a better group, like I expect, will have a huge effect on the secondary, because there's a big difference. If you have to cover a guy even a second longer, that's, you ask any football coach, that's a huge difference, just 1 second. And if that quarterback has to get out of the pocket or can't keep his eyes down the field for that extra second, it improves the secondary's efficiency tremendously. Like, people don't sort of understand that when there's a great secondary or bad secondary, a lot of times it's not necessarily the secondary's fault. If a quarterback stands back there all day, they're going to find somebody if they're a decent quarterback. So anyway, let's talk personnel, okay? So Tyreek Stevenson, I'll give you the guys the numbers again. 586 reps last year. He had a 72.1 overall grade, which is fantastic, and a 76.1 cover grade, which is really, really good, especially considering Georgia told him he could never be a cover corner and basically was too big. So good for him.
He was able to do it in the ACC.
Yeah, exactly. And then Darrell Porter's coming in from West Virginia. He played 716 reps last season, and he had a 71.7 overall grade, which is outstanding, and a 71.0 cover grade, which is great. So those two guys on the outside, like, that's pretty much as good as you're going to get in the ACC. You're not going to get much better than that in terms of guys from the previous year, how they graded out and the reps they played. They were full-time starters. They did really well. Safety, James Williams, he played injured towards the end. He didn't really know how to tackle correctly, so his tackle grade was bad. But he had, in 384 reps, he had 63.6 overall grade and a 47.9 tackling grade. That needs to improve. I think it will. I project the other starter is Avante Williams, believe it or not, over Cam Kinchens. Now, Avante didn't play a lot last year. He was suspended the first 6 games. But he had a 61 overall grade, a 50.3 tackling grade. So that, again, needs to improve. And he had no, a pass rush was 66.4. Covering was 58.7. So he's got a lot to improve. But I think he looks so good this spring. He's just so physical and so instinctive and just aggressive. I really love what I saw. And then, a third safety, Cam Kinchens, was outstanding last year. He was 554 reps and a 68.6 overall grade as a freshman. So that's probably the three. If you had to pick 3 safeties on any team in the ACC, that's as good as you're going to find, in my opinion. And then at corner, you got those 2 guys, plus Al Blades, who's a veteran, missed, basically most of last season because of some complications from COVID. But you got DJ Ivey, who, I thought was actually really not good last year, but it turns out he graded out fine, overall. 450 reps, 64.8.
He did better in the spring.
He did look good. But the problem with DJ is, the percent that he doesn't get right, when he's failing on those certain reps, they're 60-yard touchdowns. He just bites up and a guy's wide open behind him. Stuff like that is just so obvious. So his overall grade's good, but it's he seems to make one really bad mistake a game where a guy's just left totally free. And that's the problem. He's got to be more consistent. So
I mean, he looked better. I thought Dunson looked better.
Yeah.
The thing that we don't know is, are they looking better because they're really better, Matt, or are they looking better because the wide receiver group in general is relatively average? And
right. Well, so Tyreek and Darrell. Tyreek was hurt this spring. Darrell wasn't here. You got DJ Ivey, who's not bad. You got Al Blades, who came back and looked really good. And then you got Isaiah Dunson, who you just mentioned, who I thought played great this spring, but he barely played last year. And then Marcus Clark, who had a 70.2 grade last year, was basically on the 3rd team this spring, 2nd/3rd team all spring. And we know he can play. So I think these other guys just really stepped up.
I'm surprised he didn't go in the portal. There was some scuttlebutt that he was going to go in the portal, but I guess he decided not to, which I think is a good decision on his part. But
he's still young. And Corey Couch looked like the Corey Couch of 2 years ago, not last year. I mean, this was a good group of corners last year without the 2 guys who I think are going to start. So,
Corey wasn't great last year. He had a very average.
Yeah, from 2 years. 2 years ago,
Corey was better in the spring, I thought.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say. So these guys all look good in the spring. They got the spring. It's great they got spring reps. You don't need Tyreek to get the spring reps. The guys that you needed to get spring reps got them at corner and look really, really good doing it. I think the receivers are fine, which makes it even better for the cornerback room. And I think this is arguably could be one of, maybe the first or second best secondary in the ACC when the season's over, which would be shocking coming from it being one of the worst secondaries on paper a year ago. So to sum up, Mr. Negative here, okay, thinks the defense is going to have a huge jump up. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but to me, another huge factor is the offense, right? So Josh Gaddis runs the spread, but he doesn't run this frenetic hurry up that Rhett Lashley did, which forced the defense to play an extra. I think we figured it out last year. It was an extra, I believe, series and a half on defense every game.
Yeah, it was something like extra 15 plays a game or something like that, right?
Whatever it is. So it's like it's not ideal for your defensive statistics if your defense is average or below average to have to play any extra reps. And I think that was really a disservice to the whole team. Like I was looking today. I believe that this is correct. I think in their 12 games, I believe the defense in 7 of the 12 games gave up 30 or more points. And I think that was the first time that happened since 2012, maybe. I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me. But that's, you can look it up. I mean, that's bad. And I think that every team, 10 of the 12 teams, scored 26 or more points against this Miami defense last year. And the only 2 that didn't were Central Connecticut State and Duke. And that's pathetic. Because this is supposed to be the Miami Hurricanes, the U. The U was built on defense. Like this is the team that had first-round defensive lineman, first-round linebacker U, the greatest safeties in the history of the NFL. Like to get to that point is ridiculous. The offensive system that Rhett Lashley ran last year really did the defense no favors. Nobody ever wanted to talk about it last year because why would they? The offense was doing great. What are you going to say? Oh, Rhett Lashley's offense is screwing us. Is that what Manny Davis is going to say? But it did screw the defense last year. I'm sorry. And I think that this new offense will help the defense. Upgraded personnel on defense is huge. And I think they're going to get back to where they were for a string of about 6 straight seasons where they maybe give up 1 or 2 games of 30 more points for the whole season. And that's it. I think this defense is going to be really good this year. I really do. I'm very optimistic. You know, and like I said, people don't believe me when I say it. I think they're going to be in the ACC title game. Like, people think I'm Mr. Negative. They're not playing great teams. They're not playing these high-octane offenses that are going to crush them. Texas A&M is going to be the best offense they face. Clemson's offense is its weakest point. You know, like, Clemson's not going to score 30 points on Miami, I don't think. So what team other than Texas A&M is going to score 30 or more points against Miami this year? Like, I don't think that's going to happen a lot this year. And I think that's great for the defense. And I think this might be the first year in a long time where we can say Miami has a really good offense and Miami has a really good defense, because it seems like whenever the offense was good, Mark D'Onofrio was here. Oh, did I say his name? Sorry. And whenever the defense was great, the offense was terrible with Dan Enos. Oh, I didn't mean to say his name. And, like, that's just what happens. It's like one's up and one's down. And this is kind of the final of the year where here's the median and they're both up here. So that'd be great if that happens.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. You know, one team that was supposed to give Miami trouble is Pittsburgh. Well, Jordan Addison going into the transfer portal does not help their cause at all. And he is now firmly in the transfer portal. And I know everyone's been asking, is there any chance at all he would come to Miami? I think that'll come into clarity in the next 24 hours or so. It's perceived that he's going to USC. But maybe that USC situation got messy enough to where he's willing to open it up to other suitors. And if he does open it up to other suitors beyond the Trojans, yes, I do think that Life Wallet will be right there at the front of the line trying to get an appointment with Jordan Addison and his people. All right, so I guess to sum it all up, Matt, I think you and I are in agreement. Yes, the defense will be significantly improved. And yes, it will be good enough that the Canes can make some noise this season. They got to stay healthy at safety. They got to get something out of linebackers, and hopefully Caleb Johnson helps a lot in that regard. Hopefully Chase Smith comes back and can be what his physical traits would suggest that he can be. But those are ifs going into fall camp. We'll be talking about that more in August. All right, before I get to the news of the day that we want to touch on, I did want to give a shout out to one of our loyal viewers who made an interesting comment on the YouTube comments yesterday. And, we've been talking so much about this NIL and the different issues involved. He came up with this great idea. Well, I thought it was a pretty good idea, at least the beginning of it. True freshmen should not be allowed to get NIL deals. And, on one hand, it probably wouldn't hold up in a court of law because you're restricting kids at that point. But that would be a great adjustment to just take NIL. Daniel collects, you get a ton of credit for this idea because you would be taking NIL out of the equation in recruiting per se, and make kids come in and earn their stripes first before they start negotiating deals with collectives and other NIL benefactors, and then let their performance and their merits as marketeers dictate the market, not what it would take to lure a kid who's never done anything. Like, Tennessee, what they did with Nico is a total game changer in NIL because it was reckless, it was irresponsible, and they screwed the entire country by giving that kid an $8 million contract. It's just I can't say enough how damaging that was, maybe to the whole NIL process, because I think it puts an exclamation point on the concept that something needs to be done about it. I think something will be done about it. I think we'll see reform on NIL maybe as soon as next year, depending on what fits within the confines of the courts.
It's funny that people, when they first got NIL, it was like a celebration. Players can finally get paid. And now it's like, oh my God, they're getting paid
$8 million
to go to other schools. And they're getting, it's like ruining college football. And now it's like, stop paying them. Everyone's like, it's too much. They're stealing all our players. We have no idea what's going on.
An $8 million contract. And when you're pillaging receivers out of Pittsburgh, which won the ACC title, not that it didn't win.
Listen, it's going to just, this is just
the Coastal Division title.
Yeah. It's the tip of the iceberg. Eventually, every player who's any good will go in the portal after every single year of the advice of their agent and just see what offers they get. And they can either return to their school or go somewhere else. It's going to be insane because this is just a learning process still for everybody. And wait till you see what happens with the top 10 kids at every top program moving forward, because they're all learning as they watch every player go in the portal and what happens what they can do if they go in the portal and just say, okay, I'm comfortable here, I'll take my $100,000. Yeah. No, you go in the portal and you get your offers and you decide where you're going, because what's the harm? It's free transfer. It's going to happen to every top player on every top team. It's going to be free agency like imagine the NFL if there were no contracts and just every top player got to
if you had free agency every year.
This is what's happening. It's like Patrick Mahomes, every team in the NFL can say to him after the season, here's what we'll give you, here's what we'll give you, and then he just goes to a different team every year.
That's like, literally what's
going to happen here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. That's why I don't see it. I see them tightening it and making.
I don't know how they can once they.
Well, the NCAA's got to figure out
out of the bottle, man.
And they're going to try to do it. There's no doubt. All right.
Good luck.
So a couple interesting recruiting stories on the website today. We catch up with offensive guard Brendan Black. He's hearing from Alex Mirabal almost daily. I have no idea how Alex Mirabal is recruiting all these kids. He's recruiting like 50 kids. They all say they hear from him every day. It's unbelievable. But he says the Canes are now in his top 3. He's working to set up a visit in June. So be sure to check that.
You want to hear what's amazing? In the old days, it would be back office guys. They would hand these guys. I mean, I just happen to know this. So a coach would hand a back office guy his phone and say, "Here's a list of kids. Text them, whatever, and he would take control and say, "I'm Coach blah blah blah," even though it wasn't the coach; it was some back office guy. This is actually the Miami coach is doing. Like it's Coach Mirabal spending hours every day just chatting with kids and whatever. Like they actually do the work. They don't.
They all say they hear from him every day. So I mean, if he's recruiting 50 kids and he's having 10-minute conversations with almost all of them every day, I mean, I don't think he's spending 500 minutes on the phone. But even if he's spending half of that, that's like 3-4 hours of recruiting.
They do the work, man. They do the work, the staff.
They are putting in the time, the staff.
It's a shame. It's a shame because they don't know the NIL deals is all that matters now. They don't need to talk to a kid anymore. Just give them an offer.
Recruiting too.
Go home to your family. You don't need to recruit kids anymore.
Just let John Ruiz handle it. All right. Another update is at running back, Seal Russell County High School running back Drew Pickett from Alabama. He visited in mid-April for the spring game, also went on campus. We talked with him and see where his interest is with Miami. And then we've also got our traditional feature on the website, our question and answer content item, where I answer all the questions from all the posters at CaneSport.com's message boards. And we cover a lot of ground in there, as always. So few different things there for you guys to sink your teeth into. We'll be mining for breaking news from the transfer portal. And that's going to do it for today. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning CaneSport, and we wish you a great day, everybody.